Hey everybody, in this video we're going to talk about some wireframing basic tips in Photoshop. So I have Photoshop open, I'm going to create a new file, and for this particular one we're going to pretend that we are creating a new web page. So for my new document window, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on web and I'm going to select web most common and click create. And another tool or tip in Photoshop that relates to some other things we've previously talked about is a guide layout. And what a guide layout does is it will help you to place things in a way that keeps everything aligned. So to create my guide layout, I'm going to go up to the View menu, I'm going to go down to Guides, and I'm going to say New Guide Layout. In here, it will give you your last guide layout if you've applied one. If you haven't, I believe the basic one is 8 columns with a margin of 20, and I think the gutter is default to 10. What I want to do is I want a few more, so I'm going to create a 10 column, 10 row, and let's make the top margin about 40, maybe a little bit less. And we'll use that top for some other items. So we've got our guide layout on our web most common preset. And what I want to do is I'm just going to start applying different elements for my wireframe. Now, if you'll remember, a wireframe is kind of like a mock-up or like a prototype for an app or a website or something along those lines. Normally you'd create a sketch first and then a mock-up, and then you kind of move on from there, or sketch first and then a wireframe. So here we've got this. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to the frame tool. I have the frame tool selected. It's right underneath the crop tool. You'll notice up here not too many options in the options bar. I'm going to keep it with the rectangular frame tool, and I'm going to leave a spot for my logo. And what the frame tool does is it just pulls out kind of a placeholder for an image, and it leaves it with an X. And what's cool about the frame tool is if you have something that you want to apply in the frame tool, like let's say I want this logo there, I can just drag it, drop it, and it will automatically show up. Then you might have to resize something. As you can see, this doesn't perfectly fit, but it is there. And you can see that it has applied this, kind of looks like a layer mask, and it is a smart object there. So I could double click it and modify it if I needed to, but we're just going to leave it as this. So that's our placeholder for our logo. And now what I want to do is I'm going to create some kind of tabular aspect at the top. So I'm going to select my font. We're going to stick with Aglet Slab, and we'll make this home. Actually, I don't like that font for this. I'll just go with Source. And I definitely want to make this a little bit smaller, but I do want to keep my font consistent. And you'll notice that everything is automatically aligning to my layout. So I'm going to set that up right there. And then we can come in, we can modify these. What I did there to make those copies is I held down the Alt key. And if you hold the Alt key down, whoops, you can drag off a copy of anything. And I just applied it down there. So we'll say Alt, or we'll say Home. We can say Events. Oh, I'm trying to think of other things. Say Bills. And maybe we'll get rid of one of the other ones. Okay, so we're starting to build this out. Now we're going to go back to our frame tool, and this time we're going to pull out maybe a basic image placeholder. This will be a large landscape image right there. And it automatically snapped. We're using my guide layout to help make sure everything is aligned. The space in between the boxes is what we call our gutter. And you notice that my stuff kind of fits to the inside of the gutter there. Next up, we're going to select our type tool. And I'm just going to make a little paragraph type box right here. And it will automatically fill it with lorem ipsum, our placeholder text. You're going to fill it. And let's say that we want another
to write this up. Hey,
box of type. And now that we're looking at it, I'm actually thinking we're going to move this box of type over here, and we'll just kind of leave that blank, just add a little bit of space in between the two. Okay. Now we're going to go over here, and I've got a login page that I've already started. You might have seen the word login just pop up. And what we're going to do for that is we're going to move to a different subset of tools. We're going to use our vector tools over here, specifically the rectangle tool, the line tool, and maybe the ellipse tool. So we're going to do the same thing. It's automatically going to align to our boxes here. And I just dragged out a rectangle. And whenever I've done that, I get these little circles in the corners. These allow me to round my rectangle. I'm going to click and drag it, and we can just get a nice little rounded rectangle. Now you might have a shape that looks like this whenever you use a vector tool. What I'm doing to adjust that is going into my options bar, clicking inside where it says fill, and changing it to this white box with a red line through it. And I'm making sure that our stroke is black, and we can adjust the size of this there. And the stroke is just the edge, as we've already discussed that, or that outline right there around it. So we've got our rounded rectangle there. And what I'm going to do next is draw some little lines. So I'm going to go back to my vector shapes. We're going to find the line tool. I want this one to be exactly 2 columns wide. So I'm going to do that. And actually, before I do it, I'm going to hit the new layer button. That way it's in a different layer than my rounded rectangle. And I can adjust it separately if I need to. And what I want to do is I want to make this centered in relation to the rectangle that is there. So I'm going to select them both, go to my Move tool, Options bar, click on this one to align them horizontally. So now it's perfectly aligned in the center, and it is exactly 2 columns wide. With my Move tool still selected, I'm going to hold down the Alt key, drag it down. And these are going to be my username and password boxes. So we'll just add this, say username. Still using the same font. Oops, don't want that. Moving my contextual taskbar out of the way. Username, I'm going to move until it's lined up perfectly. Hold Alt, drag off a copy. This will be password.
What?
And then underneath that, we're going to make a new layer again. Go back to our rectangle tool. This one will just make exactly 1 box. You zoom in, make it rounded. Let's actually get rid of the stroke for this one, and we'll fill it with gray. And we'll make a little box inside of it. Say, next. Or it could say sign in or something along those lines. That's now centered. And if we wanted to, we could make a login with Google or Facebook button down there at the bottom. But we have a basic wireframe for this website now. We've got our spot for our image, our placeholder for our logo. We've got our tabs up here at the top. Put a little hamburger menu over there if we wanted to as well. That's the 3 lines, not an actual picture of a hamburger. And then we've got our login stuff over here. We've used our frame tool to do that. We've used our type tool to make the placeholder text, and we've used some vector tools over here to do some similar things. Now, all of this is non-destructive, meaning I can go back and edit it however I would need to. We did keep everything black and white. We also utilized our guide layout in order to create this. If I ever want to preview it without the guides, if I just click off of all of my layers, I can do exactly that. And if I want to keep it with my layers and tags, I would save this as a PSD file. Otherwise, if I'm just sending it for someone to review, I would most likely export it either as a PNG, a JPEG, or a PDF. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.